Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
"I'll buy my wife some cheap perfume on sale," the husband wrote to his mistress while promising her a necklace worth $500,000. But he celebrated too soon. The wife had a surprise of her own. Regina stood by the window, gazing thoughtfully at the November sky. Heavy, leaden clouds drifted slowly over the rooftops, promising snowfall. The 35-year-old woman, her hair tied in a loose bun, gently twisted her wedding ring. 5 years of marriage. This date used to bring her joy, but now her heart felt uneasy. The design studio where she worked had just completed a luxury apartment for a prominent businessman, and her supervisors even hinted at a possible promotion. But that joy was clouded by issues at home. Her relationship with her husband had noticeably cooled. Pedro, a tall, broad-shouldered man with attentive brown eyes and a neatly trimmed beard, was the head of marketing at a large firm. They used to laugh about their shared workaholic habits, but now his late nights at the office had become too frequent and his explanations vague. "All right," Regina sighed, stepping away from the window, "no point in spoiling my mood." A list of groceries for their celebratory dinner lay on the kitchen table. She and Pedro always marked the beginning of December in a special way, a candlelit dinner to talk about their New Year's plans. The tradition had started on their second date when they accidentally ran into each other at a supermarket, both shopping for Christmas lights. Regina smiled at the memory and glanced at the wall clock. A few hours still remained until dinner, enough time to prepare for their anniversary, which was just a week away. She had already bought Pedro a present, a collector's edition by his favorite author that he'd long dreamed of. It was beautifully wrapped and hidden behind the winter sweaters in the wardrobe, a place he never looked. Her phone chimed. A message from her friend Paulina: "Don't forget to pick up those documents from accounting tomorrow. And good luck with your special dinner." Regina replied with a smiling emoji and rose from her chair. Lately, their apartment felt too quiet. Pedro came home late, ate in silence, asked a work-related question or two, then went straight to the shower, and after that, buried himself in his phone behind an invisible wall. "Maybe he really is swamped at work," she muttered, pulling a fresh chicken from the fridge, "or maybe I'm just overthinking it." Thinking of the anniversary reminded her to find the candles for the dinner table. She remembered putting them away last year in the garage with the holiday decorations. Slipping on a light jacket, Regina went downstairs. The spacious garage, attached to their two-story house, smelled of motor oil and metal. Pedro always kept it meticulously organized, with tools neatly arranged on shelves and drawers. She didn't find the box right away. It was on the top shelf behind some tires. Regina carefully pulled it down, sneezing from the dust. "There you are," she mumbled, spotting the familiar cardboard box labeled New Year. As she reached for it, her elbow accidentally bumped a metal toolbox. It wobbled, and something inside thudded dully. Odd, Pedro never left tools out of place. His meticulousness was often the subject of family jokes. Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened the lid. Among the screwdrivers and wrenches lay something that didn't belong, a small, dark blue velvet box. Her heart skipped a beat. Her hand trembled slightly as she picked it up gently, as if it might shatter. Something inside her already knew what she had found. She clicked it open and gasped. Inside lay an exquisite white gold necklace with a teardrop pendant encrusted with sapphires and tiny diamonds along the edge. Even in the dim light of the garage, the piece sparkled with a mysterious blue fire. "Oh my God, it's stunning," Regina thought, lightly touching the pendant. It was exactly her style, not flashy, but elegant and clearly expensive. She remembered a conversation they'd had months ago, walking past a jewelry shop, when she had admired a similar necklace in the window. "So you did notice," she whispered with a smile. The cold knot that had settled in her heart over the past weeks began to melt. Pedro remembered what she liked. He was planning a surprise for their anniversary. His recent distance, maybe he'd just been stressed about the price. Or buried in end-of-year work chaos. She carefully closed the box and put it back exactly where she found it, determined not to give away her discovery. Let the surprise remain a surprise. She would act genuinely surprised when the moment came. Smiling, Regina resumed her search and quickly found the box of candles. Back upstairs, her mood had lifted completely. She wanted to sing and dance. She turned on her favorite playlist and began cooking dinner, glancing at the clock now and then. Time passed. The herb chicken was turning golden in the oven, the potatoes were done, and a salad gleamed in a crystal bowl on the table. She lit the candles, set the plates and glasses, and even opened a bottle of good red wine they'd been saving for a special occasion. At exactly 7, their usual dinner time, the phone rang. Regina flinched and rushed to answer. "Yes, love?" Pedro's voice sounded tired and slightly guilty. "Regina, I'm sorry, I'll be late again tonight. We're swamped with the annual report, and the boss wants it done by morning." Her heart sank, but the memory of the necklace softened the disappointment. "That's okay," she replied, hiding her dismay. "Work is work. Any idea what time you'll be home?" "Honestly, it'll be late. Don't wait for me. Eat without me." And, he paused, "I'm sorry I'm missing our traditional December dinner. I promise we'll celebrate another day." Of course, Regina nodded, though he couldn't see her. Good luck with the report. Don't overwork yourself. After a brief goodbye, she hung up and looked at the festive table. The candles were melting, the wine was breathing, and the chicken smelled divine. Everything was perfect, except the absence of the one person who should have been there. She sighed and sat down. Her eyes fell on a framed photo on the sideboard, she and Pedro laughing, arms around each other, in front of a Christmas tree. It felt like a memory from another life. It's okay, she thought, standing up, everyone goes through rough patches. The important thing is, he remembers our anniversary. That means there's still hope. She blew out the candles, put the wine back in the cupboard, and began packing the food into containers to bring to work. At least her coworkers would enjoy her cooking. The evening passed in solitude, with a cup of tea and a book. Regina kept drifting from the pages, imagining how happy she'd be when Pedro gave her that beautiful necklace. She even mentally chose an outfit that would match it perfectly. Lost in these thoughts, she didn't notice falling asleep on the couch, still waiting for her husband. The book slipped from her hands, and the unread page remained open, just like her heart, which had found a new glimmer of hope for their love story. The next morning greeted Regina with a sore neck from sleeping in an awkward position. The clock showed just past 7. On the coffee table lay a note, scrawled in Pedro's familiar handwriting. Left for work. Meeting at 9. Don't wait for dinner. No good morning, no love you, nothing that used to sweeten their daily routine. Regina slowly crumpled the note in her fist. Her eyes stung with unshed tears, but she blinked them away. When did we become strangers? The thought slithered through her mind like a cold snake, but she chased it away with the memory of last night's discovery. The necklace. Of course Pedro was just stressed. Their anniversary was coming, everything would work out. She took a shower, drank her coffee, and got ready for work. Passing the hallway mirror, she paused to check her reflection. Slim figure maintained through yoga, neat makeup, a stylish dress and scarf that highlighted her green eyes. At 35, she looked great. Her co-workers often complimented her, and even clients praised her elegance. So why had Pedro grown so distant? That question haunted her as she drove through the snowy morning streets. The radio played a soft holiday tune, reminding her that soon, very soon, she and her husband would be celebrating 5 years of marriage. At the office, a full day awaited, 2 clients, material selections for a new project, and a meeting with the director. Only around 5 in the evening did she finally get a moment to catch her breath and have tea with her coworkers in the small kitchen. "You seem a little lost in thought today," remarked Esmeralda, a slightly plump woman with kind brown eyes who worked as a visual designer. "Oh, it's nothing," Regina brushed it off, "just tired. End of the year, projects, reports." "Everyone's in the same boat," chimed in Paloma, a young intern. "My boyfriend had to spend his whole weekend finishing reports. Says his boss is going nuts." Regina nodded, only half listening. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Pedro, his detachment, the cold notes replacing warm hugs. "Are you and your husband planning to go anywhere for New Year's?" asked Esmeralda, interrupting her thoughts. "We haven't decided yet," Regina replied with a strained smile. "He's buried in work right now, so no time for planning." The conversation shifted to holiday getaways and dream vacations, but at some point, Regina caught herself realizing she couldn't remember the last time she and Pedro had talked about the future together. She came home around 7. The empty apartment greeted her with silence, broken only by the steady ticking of the living room clock. Regina took off her coat, slipped off her shoes, and walked into the kitchen. Yesterday's containers with untouched dinner still sat in the fridge. She wasn't hungry. Pouring herself a glass of wine, she sat by the window, staring at the twinkling lights in the neighboring houses. A strange unease gnawed at her. Something didn't add up, not with the necklace she found. Or maybe it did. Her memory unearthed a conversation with her mother shortly before the wedding. Her mom, a stately woman with prematurely gray hair and sorrowful lines around her eyes, had spoken quietly but firmly. "Sweetheart, I'm happy for you. Pedro seems like a reliable man. But remember, sometimes even the most reliable are capable of betrayal." Back then, Regina had been nearly angry. She knew her mother spoke from personal pain. Her father had left them for a younger colleague when Regina was 12. That betrayal had marked her mother forever, casting a shadow over every relationship since. "I just don't want you to go through what I did," her mother had said, squeezing her hands. "Just be alert. If something feels off, trust your instincts." Instincts? What were hers telling her now? Regina set her empty glass on the table and paced the room. Pedro really had changed lately. Long hours, constant phone calls he took in the other room, smiles at his screen when he thought she wasn't looking. Is history repeating itself? No, she scolded herself, that's just mom's fears talking. Pedro isn't like that. But the doubt had already taken root and was demanding answers. The necklace, hidden in the garage, not in the closet or office. Why? It was nearly 9 when she heard a key turning in the lock. Her heart skipped. She heard heavy breathing in the hallway, rustling clothes, and then Pedro stepped into the room. "Hey," he muttered without even looking at her. "I'm jumping in the shower." Regina nodded absently, noting his rumpled appearance, the undone collar, and a strange unfamiliar scent, a mix of women's perfume and something sweet. The bathroom door shut and the sound of running water soon followed. Pedro always took at least 15 minutes in the shower. That had never changed. Regina stood in the middle of the room, torn. Her instincts screamed at her to check his phone. But her upbringing, her respect for personal boundaries, held her back. What if there's nothing? What if I'm imagining things? Pedro's phone sat on the hallway console, black with a faint crack on the screen protector. The display was dark, but lit up now and then with incoming notifications. 10 at night. Who texts him at this hour? That thought broke her resolve. Carefully, silently, she walked over. The water still ran, she had a few minutes. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might drown out everything else. It was locked, of course. But she knew the code, Pedro's birthday, a 4-digit number he never changed. The screen unlocked. Messages. Mostly work emails, a few from friends, and one unread message in a chat from N. Regina hesitated, knowing she was crossing a line after which their relationship might never be the same. But fear of the unknown pushed her forward. She opened the thread. The last message had been sent 10 minutes ago. I can't wait for tomorrow. I want to feel your hands on my skin again. Kisses, you're in. Who is in? And why again? Regina scrolled up, the room starting to spin around her. You were amazing tonight. I still have goosebumps from your touch, Anne had written 3 days ago. You too, Pedro replied. I've never met such a passionate woman. Regina's hands trembled as she scrolled further. The messages got more intimate, crossing every line. Then came the message that shattered her. I can't wait for our 6-month anniversary. Will you really give me that sapphire necklace you mentioned? Of course. I've already picked something special. You'll love it. It'll be our little secret. Regina's breath caught. The necklace. The necklace she found in the garage. It wasn't for her. Not for the wife. For some woman named Anne. Then came another message from Pedro. As for my wife, I'll just get her some cheap perfume set from a promo. She won't even notice. Lately, she's totally stopped caring about herself, always wrapped up in work. The room dissolved around her. Regina clutched the wall to stay upright. How could he? How could the man she loved, who she thought loved her, write something so cruel? The sound of water shutting off jolted her. Quickly, she closed the app and returned the phone, legs barely carrying her into the kitchen. She poured herself some water, trying to slow her racing heart. When Pedro came out, towel around his hips, she was already in the armchair, pretending to read. What's for dinner? He asked indifferently, walking past her toward the bedroom. I didn't cook, Regina replied, surprised at how steady her voice was. I thought you'd eat at work, like usual. Yeah, grabbed something at a cafe, he tossed over his shoulder. I'm heading to bed. Early morning tomorrow. The bedroom door shut. Regina finally exhaled. Her hand still shook. Fragments of messages looped in her head. Who was this in? And how long had it been going on? She opened her laptop and went to the website of Pedro's company. Marketing department. Staff. She scrolled through the pictures and names until one stopped her, a young, striking blonde with bold red lipstick. Natalia Santana. Senior Client Relations Specialist. Her heart skipped. Natalia. According to the site, she joined the company 6 months ago, just when Pedro started staying late. She checked the dates in the messages. Their 6-month anniversary fell on December 17th. 2 days before her and Pedro's wedding anniversary. The pain and humiliation came crashing back. She remembered the joy she felt finding that necklace. Imagining the surprise Pedro was planning for her. But it wasn't for her. It was for Natalia, 10 years younger. And this wasn't just a fling. Pedro was seriously involved. She wanted to scream. Smash dishes. Storm into the bedroom and confront the traitor. But instead, Regina sat motionless, staring at the screen where the smiling face of the woman who stole her husband glowed. What now? Make a scene? Forgive him? Pretend nothing happened? Her mother's words came back, if a man betrays you once, he'll do it again. And her father, whose betrayal had left a scar she thought long healed. But now it was bleeding again. No. She wouldn't repeat her mother's fate. Wouldn't scream or beg. Wouldn't pretend. There had to be another way. And there was. Regina closed the laptop and took a deep breath. She needed time. A plan. On tiptoe, she went to the guest room they kept for visiting parents. Tonight, she couldn't lie beside the man who had betrayed her. She closed the door behind her, sat on the bed, and finally let the tears fall. Silent tears. Not for Pedro, but for the illusion she had to let go. When the storm passed, she grabbed her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in weeks. Mom? Sorry for the late call. No, everything's fine. I just wanted to hear your voice. The conversation brought comfort. They talked about the weather, the holidays, a new sweater her mother had knit. Not a word about Pedro. But they both knew why she'd called. Sweetheart, her mother said before hanging up, whatever happens, remember, you're stronger than you think. And I'm always here. Thanks, Mom, Regina whispered, blinking back fresh tears. I'll call tomorrow. After the call, she lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. A plan was forming, clear, calculated, calm. No tantrums. No submission. Something better. Something with dignity. Maybe even a lesson. The image of the sapphire necklace surfaced again. Meant for the mistress, but found by the wife. There was bitter irony in that. And maybe a solution. She curled up under the blanket like a child afraid of the dark. Sleep didn't come. But she didn't need sleep. She needed clarity. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter. One without illusions. Maybe without Pedro. But before closing that chapter, she had to finish writing it. What if I played my own card? The thought came unexpectedly, lifting her to her elbow. What if, instead of a scandal, I give Pedro enough rope to hang himself? A strange calm washed over her, pushing aside the pain. For the first time that evening, she could breathe. The plan was risky, but possible. And to pull it off, she'd need help. Regina picked up her phone and texted Paulina, her closest friend who worked in a jewelry boutique. We need to meet tomorrow. It's important. It's about Pedro. Paulina was waiting at a small cafe 2 blocks from the boutique where she'd worked for nearly a decade. She waved and smiled when she saw Regina approaching, but the smile quickly faded when she saw her friend's face. What happened? Paulina asked as Regina sat across from her. You look exhausted. Pedro is cheating on me, Regina said without preamble, her voice so calm that Paulina didn't immediately grasp what she'd heard. What? Paulina leaned forward. Are you sure? Regina gave a short nod and, glancing around, pulled out her phone. The cafe was nearly empty, a couple of elderly women by the window and a young man in the far corner working on a laptop. I saw their messages. And there's something else I need to show you. She opened the gallery and handed the phone to her friend. On the screen was a photo of the necklace, the same one she had found in the garage 2 days ago. Before leaving for work, Regina had quietly slipped in and taken several pictures of the jewelry, capturing it from every angle. Paulina whistled when she saw it. Wow. White gold, sapphires, looks like it has a diamond outline. Yes, Regina confirmed. I found it in the garage, in Pedro's tool drawer. At first, I thought it was an anniversary gift for me, but... She trailed off, struggling to swallow the lump in her throat. But... Paulina gently prompted. Turns out it's a gift for his mistress. Some Natalia from his department. Apparently, they've got an anniversary coming up too, 6 months of seeing each other behind my back. Paulina shook her head, her brown eyes narrowing. What a bastard. Sorry, Regina, but there's no other word for him. A waitress approached, a girl with pink streaks in her dark hair and multiple earrings. What can I get you? 2 cappuccinos and Paulina glanced at Regina. Blueberry cheesecake, Regina finished. 2 slices. Once the waitress walked away, Paulina zoomed in on the necklace photo. You know, I think I've seen something like this in our boutique. If it's what I think it is, this thing is insanely expensive. I'd say at least $500,000. Regina turned pale. $500,000? He spent $500,000 on that. She paused, searching for a polite word. That woman? I'm afraid so, Paulina nodded. That's not mass production, it's a custom design. Sapphires of that size and clarity are rare, and combined with diamonds. Regina leaned back in her chair, nausea rising in her throat. $500,000. Half their yearly savings. Money they'd been setting aside for a vacation, a kitchen remodel, their future. All these years he'd made her economize, and now he'd blown a fortune on a gift for his mistress. So what are you going to do? Paulina asked, returning the phone. Are you going to confront him? Regina slowly shook her head. No. There won't be a scene. I have a different plan. But I'll need your help. Her friend listened closely as Regina laid out her idea. With every word, Paulina's eyes widened, and by the end, an admiring smile spread across her face. That's brilliant, she breathed. Risky, but brilliant. Are you sure you want to go through with it? Absolutely, Regina said firmly. He didn't just cheat. He mocked me in those messages. He talked about buying his wife a cheap perfume set while his mistress paraded around in a $500,000 necklace. That's unforgivable. The waitress brought their order, briefly pausing the conversation. Regina took a sip of her cappuccino, relishing the moment of calm. For the first time in 2 days, she felt something close to peace. The plan was risky, but it was doable. And more importantly, it was just. I'll help you, Paulina said after the waitress left. After all, what's friendship if not standing by each other through wild schemes? She tried to joke, but her eyes were filled with genuine sympathy and support. Our jeweler can make a replica in 2 or 3 days. Miguel's got magic hands, he could do it with his eyes closed. We just need the original for exact measurements and stone matching. The stones won't be real, of course, but visually, no one will know the difference unless they're an expert. How much would a copy like that cost? Regina asked, already estimating her budget. For you, around 30,000, no more. I'll talk to Miguel, explain everything. He'll understand, he went through a divorce himself a couple of years ago. They worked out the details. Regina would retrieve the necklace from its hiding place while Pedro was at work and bring it to the boutique. Paulina would oversee the replica's creation and call as soon as it was ready. And after that? Paulina asked as they left the cafe. After the swap, I mean. Are you going to file for divorce? Regina adjusted her scarf and gazed thoughtfully at the falling snow. Not right away. I want to see how things unfold. If Pedro is capable of doing this to me, he deserves to feel what it's like to be deceived too. The next morning, once she was sure Pedro had left for work, Regina went to the garage. Retrieving the necklace took only a few minutes. She carefully wrapped the jewel in soft fabric and tucked it into a special pocket in her bag. Before leaving the house, she called work and said she'd be late due to urgent matters at the bank. No one objected, the holidays were coming, and everyone was busy with year-end tasks and party planning. The jewelry store Almaz, where Paulina worked, was located in an old shopping center in the city center. Paulina was already waiting by the entrance, nervously glancing at her watch. Did you bring it? She whispered, though no one was nearby. Regina nodded, and Paulina led her straight through the showroom into the back room. Miguel. She called. My friend's here, the one I told you about. An older man with a gray beard and a magnifying lens clipped to his glasses looked up from his workbench. Ah, the one with the unfaithful husband? He grunted, removing the lens. Let's see what you've got. Regina unwrapped the fabric, and the necklace gleamed under the bright desk lamp. Miguel gave a low whistle. Yep. Fine piece. Let me take a closer look. The next hour was spent meticulously examining the piece. The jeweler inspected each stone, checked the settings, and jotted notes in his notebook. Finally, he set his tools aside and nodded. We can do it. I've got the right settings and stones. I'll need 3 days. Can you make it in 2? Regina asked anxiously. I'm worried he might notice it's missing. Miguel scratched his beard, thinking. Well, if it's urgent. Fine, I'll try to finish in 2. Paulina will help with the design details and stone selection. He gently wrapped the necklace and locked it in the safe. Come back the day after tomorrow in the afternoon, I should be done by then. On the way home, Regina felt oddly numb. She had just left a piece worth $500,000 in the hands of a man she barely knew. But she had no choice, the swap was crucial. Back home, she headed straight to work and spent the rest of the day as usual, doing her best to mask the tension. That evening, Pedro came home late again, and she went to bed alone, a mixture of pain and resolve simmering inside her. 2 days passed in anxious anticipation. Regina jumped at every phone call, afraid Pedro had discovered the necklace was gone. But he seemed unaware. He was barely home anyway, blaming the holiday workload. At last, a message arrived from Paulina: "It's ready. Come by." Leaving a note for her colleagues saying she had an emergency dentist appointment, Regina rushed to the boutique. Paulina greeted her with a beaming smile. "Miguel outdid himself. Come see for yourself." In the workshop, 2 velvet boxes sat on the table, the original dark blue one Regina had brought, and an identical new one. Miguel stood up proudly when he saw her. "Well then, let's compare." He opened both boxes. On their stands, the 2 necklaces sparkled, practically indistinguishable. Regina couldn't even tell which was which at first glance. "This is incredible," she breathed. "They're identical." "Not completely," Miguel smiled. "But only an expert would spot the difference. Or someone checking the stone's authenticity. To the average person, he won't notice a thing. I guarantee it." Regina shook the master's hand with gratitude and paid for the work. 35,000 was a hefty sum, but nothing compared to the original's value. And nothing compared to the satisfaction she was about to receive. "Thank you so much," she said, taking both boxes. "You have no idea how much you've helped me." "I've met guys like him," Miguel muttered. "My ex got caught up with one too. Never occurred to me to get revenge so elegantly, though. You've got talent, girl." On the way home, Regina felt strange. She had never seen herself as vindictive, always the one to forgive, to find compromise, to smooth things over. But now she couldn't and didn't want to forgive. At home, she headed straight for the garage. No sign of Pedro's car. Good, he was still at work. Or with her. Regina carefully opened the tool drawer and placed the replica necklace in the exact spot where the original had been. If Pedro checked the hiding place, and he surely would, right before his anniversary with Natalia, he wouldn't notice the switch. The original necklace was now stashed in Regina's secret spot, an old jewelry box tucked away among winter clothes in her wardrobe. Pedro had never looked there, assuming it held nothing but cheap trinkets not worth his attention. Back inside the house, Regina opened her laptop and installed the app Paulina had told her about, a phone tracker. Naturally, it required access to Pedro's phone. She had to wait until late in the evening. When Pedro finally came home, he reeked of alcohol and that same sweet perfume. "Office party?" Regina asked, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Yeah, pre-New Year's celebration," he said, taking off his coat. "We were celebrating a contract with a new client. I'm hitting the shower, then bed. I'm dead tired." Regina nodded. "All right. I'll leave you a headache pill and a glass of water on the nightstand. You'll need it." He nodded gratefully, clearly already feeling the effects of his drinking. "Thanks, you're the best." "Yeah, I'm the best," Regina thought bitterly, "so good that you replaced me with the first young thing that smiled at you." But aloud she only said, "You're welcome. Need your phone charged? It must be dead by now." "Oh, right." Pedro pulled the phone from his pocket and handed it to her. "Battery's almost gone. Plug it in for me, would you?" Exactly what she'd hoped for. As soon as the shower started running, Regina quickly installed the tracker app, enabled stealth mode, and synced it with her phone. Now she would always know where Pedro was. For safety, she would say if he ever discovered the app. But in truth, it was to make sure she didn't miss the moment he gave the fake necklace to his mistress. She placed the phone on the charger, laid out the medicine and water, and headed to the bedroom. When Pedro came back and lay down beside her after taking the pill, Regina was already pretending to be asleep. In the darkness, listening to her husband's breathing, she thought about how quickly life can change. Just a week ago, she had believed they were a strong couple and that their minor issues would resolve themselves. Now, she was swapping jewelry and installing spyware on his phone. But this was only the beginning. The real show would start when Pedro gave Natalia the fake necklace. Regina would be ready. She had it all planned out. December 17th dawned bright and cold. Regina woke up well before her alarm. Today was Pedro and Natalia's 6-month anniversary, and she had no intention of missing the climax of her plan. At breakfast, her husband was unusually cheerful. He even cracked a few jokes, something he hadn't done in weeks. "I'll be late again tonight," he said, finishing his coffee. "Pre-holiday client meetings, you know how it is." "Of course," Regina replied with a knowing smile. "Work comes first." The tracking app showed that last night, Pedro had gone to the shopping center and stayed there for about 30 minutes, likely retrieving the necklace and making sure it was ready for the big moment. "Have a good day," he said, walking out the door. Regina waited until his car disappeared around the corner, then called her office. "Hello, Senora Toro? This is Fernandez. I'm sorry, but I need a day off for family reasons." "Yes, today. Thank you for understanding." She hung up and glanced at the wall clock. 9 a.m. According to the intercepted messages, Pedro planned to meet Natalia at the Versailles restaurant at 7. She had plenty of time to prepare. Regina put on a simple dark suit, tied her hair back, and added accessories she didn't normally wear, oversized sunglasses and a scarf that partially concealed her face. She packed a thermos of tea, some sandwiches, and binoculars. It might be a long wait. The Versailles restaurant was located in one of the city's upscale districts. Regina arrived early, around 5, and parked across the street, where she had a clear view of the entrance. She poured herself some tea and settled in to wait. Pedro arrived at 6:45 sharp, punctual as ever. He straightened his tie in the mirrored window, smoothed his hair, and went inside. Through the windows, Regina could see him talking to the maitre d', probably confirming their reservation. Natalia arrived 20 minutes late. It was the first time Regina saw her in person, a tall blonde with a model-like figure and a confident stride. She wore a tight red dress under a cream-colored coat. "Not bad," Regina admitted. "But is she worth destroying a family over?" Pedro had chosen a table by the window, perfect for observation. Regina could see them clearly through the large glass panes. They ordered champagne and chatted animatedly. Pedro laughed at Natalia's jokes, touched her hand, looked at her with a gaze Regina hadn't seen in years. Nausea rose in her throat, but she forced herself to watch. This was her plan. Her revenge. She had to see it through. After dessert, the moment came. Regina raised the binoculars. Pedro said something with a solemn expression, then pulled a familiar dark blue box from his jacket. Natalia squealed with delight. Regina couldn't hear it, but she imagined the sound. The woman quickly opened the box, her face lighting up with awe. She threw her arms around Pedro, knocking over their glasses. Regina snapped a few photos with her phone. They might be useful later, for divorce proceedings. Pedro helped Natalia put on the necklace. The fake sapphires sparkled under the restaurant lights, nearly as brilliantly as the real ones. Natalia kept turning her head, touching the pendant again and again, clearly unable to believe her luck. "I wonder what you'll say when you find out the truth," Regina thought, snapping more pictures. They stayed until closing time. Pedro walked Natalia to a taxi, kissed her for a long time, then got into his car. Regina didn't follow him. She didn't need to. She had all the proof she needed. December 19th, their 5th wedding anniversary. Pedro didn't forget. He came home early, carrying flowers, a box of chocolates, and a gift bag with a corner of wrapping paper sticking out. "Happy anniversary, darling," he said, kissing Regina's cheek. She put on her best smile and hugged him. "And to you, my love. I'm so glad you remembered. How could I forget a day like this?" He rolled his eyes dramatically. 5 years, that's a milestone. Regina handed him a beautifully wrapped book, the collector's edition she'd bought long before discovering his affair. "Thank you." Pedro's excitement seemed genuine. "I've been searching for this forever." Then it was his turn. He gave Regina the gift bag, from a well-known chain of cosmetic stores. "Hope you like it," he said with the same tone he'd used in the restaurant 2 days earlier. Regina unwrapped the box. Inside was a set of 3 eau de toilette bottles in festive packaging that read Holiday Special, 50% off. Exactly the kind of gift he had mentioned to Natalia. How sweet, Regina smiled, feeling a swirl of pain and dark amusement. Thank you, darling. Very practical. There are 3 scents you can mix and match, Pedro explained, apparently missing her sarcasm. The saleswoman said it's the season's bestseller. They had dinner in a relatively warm atmosphere. Pedro even shared a few stories from work. The wine helped them both relax. I love you, he said later, in the bedroom. Liar, Regina thought, but she smiled and replied, I love you too. 6 days later, the storm hit. Pedro burst through the door around 9 p.m., slamming it so hard the windows shook. His face was twisted in rage. This is the end, he growled, tossing his coat onto the couch. Regina looked up from her laptop. What happened? I got scammed, that's what. He yelled, pacing the room in fury. They sold me a fake instead of the real thing. $500,000 down the drain. What are you talking about? Regina asked, feigning confusion. Pedro stopped abruptly, realizing he had almost exposed himself. Just business, he muttered. I bought a batch of watches for resale. Turned out they were knockoffs. That's terrible, Regina said with mock concern. But I thought your company didn't deal in watches. It was a personal side project, he snapped. Doesn't matter. I'm furious. Losing that much money. Sit down and tell me everything, she offered, patting the couch beside her. Pedro shook his head. I don't want to talk about it. Pour me a drink, will you? Regina brought out a bottle of cognac and 2 glasses. She filled them and handed him one. To honesty, she toasted, locking eyes with him. He choked a little but downed the drink. Honesty? What honesty? The kind that doesn't exist in our marriage, Regina said calmly, pulling out her phone. Want to see some photos from Versailles? Or maybe read your messages with Natalia? Pedro's face went pale with shock. His mouth opened, but no words came out. How did you? He finally stammered. I found the necklace you hid in the garage, Regina shrugged. Thought it was for me at first. Then I read your messages. You went through my phone? Pedro protested. And you cheated on me with a coworker, she shot back. Which is worse? Pedro collapsed into the armchair, burying his face in his hands. It's complicated, Regina. You don't understand. No, I understand perfectly, Regina cut him off. You wanted a pretty young thing instead of your wife. Classic story. My mother went through it with my father. But I'm not going to repeat her mistakes. What do you mean? He asked cautiously. Regina opened her photo gallery and showed him the pictures from the restaurant, Pedro giving Natalia the necklace, helping her put it on, kissing her goodbye. You were spying on me? His voice trembled with a mix of anger and growing panic. I was gathering evidence, Regina corrected. And yes, the necklace is fake. The real one is with me. She walked to the wardrobe, opened a jewelry box, and took out the original piece. Pedro stared, mouth agape, shifting his gaze between the necklace and his wife. You switched it. Exactly. Clever, right? Regina allowed herself a small smile. I imagine your dear Natalia was quite upset when she found out her precious gift was cheap costume jewelry. She had it appraised, didn't she? Pedro nodded silently, still stunned. Oh, and one more thing, Regina added, pulling an envelope from her bag. This is a copy of the divorce petition I filed yesterday. The original is with my lawyer, along with proof of your infidelity and the misuse of marital assets. What? Pedro jumped to his feet. You can't. I can, she cut in firmly. And I did. I'm not staying with a man who betrayed me. especially not one who joked with his mistress about buying his wife a discount perfume set while giving her a $500,000 necklace. Pedro turned pale. "You saw that message?" "I saw everything," Regina nodded. "Every word." Silence fell for a moment. Then Pedro stepped toward her, hand reaching out. "Regina, please, let's talk. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. 5 years of marriage, are you really going to throw that away?" Regina stepped back, avoiding his touch. "Don't, Pedro. You threw away our marriage the moment you started an affair. And by the way, you're not even her first married lover. Everyone at the office knows." Pedro's face twisted in humiliation and anger. "You're bluffing." "How would you know that?" "It's a small world," she shrugged. "Paloma from my agency is dating a programmer at your company. He told her Natalia is known for going after successful married men. Apparently, her failed marriage left her bitter. It was a brutal blow." Regina didn't know if it was entirely true, but a photo from the office party, where Natalia flirted with another married colleague, supported the theory. Pedro sank into the couch, burying his hands in his hair. She said I was special," he muttered. "I'm sure she says that to everyone," Regina scoffed. "But that's not my problem anymore. I suggest we end this peacefully. I'll keep the necklace as compensation for emotional distress. We'll split the apartment and the car. No alimony, no additional claims." "And if I don't agree?" Pedro asked hoarsely. "Then we go to court. Publicly. With proof of infidelity, witnesses, and a deep dive into your financial manipulations. Is that what you want?" Pedro stared at her, stunned. "What manipulations?" "I checked our joint accounts," Regina said calmly. "Over the past 6 months, you've withdrawn nearly $1 million in cash. Half of that is mine, money I earned. You spent it on your mistress. Think the court will look kindly on that?" Another silence. Then Pedro slowly nodded. "Fine. I agree to a peaceful divorce." "Good," Regina stood. "Then I won't need to use the photos or messages. I've packed my things and I'm moving in with my mother. I'll send you my lawyer's contact details tomorrow." "You already packed?" he asked, astonished. "When?" 3 days ago," she replied. "I planned ahead, Pedro. Unlike you, I don't act on impulse." Regina headed for the door, then paused and turned back. "One more thing. Did Natalia break things off with you?" Pedro nodded reluctantly. "Yeah. She said she doesn't deal with frauds." "Then tell her this: a real fraud is someone who betrays his own family. Goodbye, Pedro." The door closed with a quiet click, leaving her former husband alone in the apartment with his guilt and regrets. Underscore 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 underscore. Regina, sweetheart, you can't be serious. Marta, Pedro's mother, placed a dish of cookies on the table and sat across from Regina. 5 years of marriage isn't a joke. Every man makes mistakes. But family is sacred. Regina gave a restrained smile, sipping tea from a delicate porcelain cup. They were sitting in Marta's cozy apartment. Regina had come only out of respect for the woman who had always treated her kindly. "Marta, I appreciate your concern. But my decision is final. Pedro betrayed our marriage, and I don't see how trust can be rebuilt." The older woman threw up her hands. "Oh, come on. Who doesn't make mistakes these days?" Pedro realizes it now. He's devastated. "He's only devastated because he got caught," Regina replied evenly. "If I hadn't found the messages, he'd still be living a double life." "Men are like children," Marta sighed. "They need to be forgiven." My late husband, may he rest in peace, wasn't a saint either. But I stayed. I endured. Regina turned her cup slowly in her hands. Marta had always seemed like a strong woman, but now she looked like someone stuck in the ideals of a bygone era. I don't want to live like that, Regina said firmly. I don't want to endure. I deserve better. Pride won't keep you warm at night, Marta muttered. Sure, you're young and beautiful now, you'll have admirers. But what happens later? Who will be there then? I'd rather be alone with dignity than together in humiliation, Regina said as she rose. I'm sorry, but I have a meeting with my lawyer. Marta stood too, nervously twisting a lace handkerchief. Think it over, dear. Pedro will agree to anything. He's even ready to sign over the apartment, he just wants you back. Regina shook her head. At the door, she turned briefly. Tell him that if he truly wants to make amends, he should sign the divorce papers without a fuss. That will show respect better than any apology. Underscore 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 underscore. Lawyer Marietta Fuentes' office was located in a sleek business center. The middle-aged professional with a sharp gaze and immaculate hairstyle studied the documents Regina had given her. So, your husband agrees to an amicable divorce, she summarized. That's good. Saves time and nerves. But I'd still recommend preparing a full set of evidence in case he changes his mind. I have the evidence, Regina nodded, opening her handbag. She pulled out the velvet box and placed it on the desk. The sapphires sparkled under the office lights. What's this? The lawyer raised an eyebrow. Proof of misused marital funds, Regina explained. My husband bought this necklace for his mistress using our joint money. It's worth about $500,000. I have photos of him giving it to another woman and messages confirming the affair. Marietta whistled softly. Impressive. But wait, if he gave it away, how do you have it? Regina briefly explained the switch. The lawyer listened with undisguised admiration. This is a first in my career, she admitted. Usually, wronged wives throw dishes or quietly suffer. You took a very original route. I just didn't want to sink to his level, Regina said with a shrug. Well, this gives us a strong position in negotiations, Marietta nodded, jotting notes. With this kind of evidence, we can push for a very favorable division of assets. Do you have any children? No, Regina said softly. We kept postponing it. In this case, it simplifies things. And your husband's income? Comfortable. He's head of marketing at a large company. Excellent. I'll draft the asset division agreement with all this in mind. I believe we can secure at least 60% for you, plus emotional damages. I don't want his money, Regina shook her head. Just my fair share. And I want to keep the necklace. Marietta smiled with understanding. That's fair. What are your plans after the divorce? I have a dream. Regina's eyes lit up for the first time during the conversation. I want to open my own design studio. I've been saving for years, and with my share from the apartment sale, it should be enough to get started. That sounds wonderful, the lawyer approved. I know many people who might need a good interior designer. I'd be happy to recommend you. Thank you, Regina said sincerely. That would be really helpful. As she left Marietta's office, she felt lighter than she had in a long time, as if the heavy weight she had carried on her shoulders for months had finally been lifted. Ahead lay a new life, without betrayal, without lies, without pretending everything was fine when it had long been broken. The divorce was finalized faster than expected. Despite her worries, Pedro didn't resist and signed all the documents without protest. Maybe it was fear of public scandal, or maybe guilt. Either way, within 2 months, Regina was officially a free woman. They sold the apartment and split the proceeds according to their agreement. Regina gave up the car in exchange for Pedro's share of a piece of land they had bought a year before their marriage fell apart. There, one day, she planned to build a small house, just for herself, with no need to accommodate anyone else's wishes. For now, she rented a cozy one-bedroom apartment not far from the city center and threw herself into building her business. Registering the company, finding a workspace, developing a brand identity, it consumed almost all her time and left no room for sadness or regret. Marietta Fuentes kept her promise. Thanks to her recommendations, Regina had her first clients even before the studio's official opening. She hired 2 young, talented designers and a visual artist, while she took on the role of project manager and handled key clients personally. The grand opening of ML Design was scheduled for late April, the perfect time when everything in nature begins anew and the world feels full of hope. Regina decided to combine the opening with a presentation of their first completed project, the renovation of a historic mansion turned into a modern office center. Potential clients, journalists, colleagues, and friends were all invited. Regina's mother traveled from her small town to support her daughter on this important day. Standing beside her in front of the studio, she held her hand tightly. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You handled this so much better than I ever did." Regina hugged her. "Thank you for always believing in me. And for warning me." Of course, some things still hurt. Especially when mutual acquaintances told her that Pedro and Natalia were back together, as if nothing had happened, as if there hadn't been betrayal and deceit. But over time, that news stopped affecting her. She truly wished them well, sincerely, without bitterness. Let them live as they pleased. She had her own path now. The presentation was a success. The project received high praise from industry professionals, and the reception helped forge valuable new connections. Dressed in a chic turquoise suit, her hair elegantly styled, Regina accepted compliments and congratulations with poise. No one would have guessed that just 6 months earlier, this confident businesswoman had been on the verge of a breakdown over a failing marriage. "Exquisite work," came a deep male voice from behind her. "I was especially impressed by how you combined historical elements with modern solutions." Regina turned to see a tall man in his 40s with striking gray eyes and a neatly trimmed beard. He offered his hand. "Manuel Esteban, from Linea Architecture. We focus mainly on public spaces, and I think we could be a good fit for collaboration." "Regina Fernandez," she replied, shaking his hand. "I've heard of your work. The Riverside Promenade, that was yours, right?" Manuel smiled, clearly pleased to be recognized. "Yes, one of our latest big projects. Right now, we've won the tender to renovate the city park downtown. We'll need an interior designer for the administrative buildings. Would you be open to discussing a partnership?" "I'd love to," Regina nodded. "We can meet next week to go over the details." "Perfect," Manuel handed her his business card. "Call me when you're free. And, if I may be bold, perhaps over dinner? I know a wonderful place with a river view." Regina hesitated. After everything, she wasn't sure she was ready for something new. But there was something about him, his calm confidence, his professionalism, his genuine interest in her work, that made her feel at ease. "Why not?" she answered with a soft smile. "I think we'll have plenty to talk about." As Manuel walked away, Paulina approached, holding a glass of champagne. "Whoa! That was Esteban. One of the best architects in the city. And from the look on his face, he's impressed, and not just with your design skills." Regina waved her off. "It's just a business proposal." "Uh-huh. A dinner proposal with a river view? Classic business meeting. But you know what? You deserve this. You deserve someone who appreciates not only your beauty, but your strength. As for Pedro, he got what he deserved." Regina looked down at the business card in her hand, thoughtful. Maybe Paulina was right. Maybe sometimes you have to step into the unknown to begin a truly new chapter. That evening, after all the guests had left and only her team remained, Regina opened the safe and took out the familiar velvet box. The sapphire necklace, once the cause of so many tears and heartbreak, now felt like just a beautiful piece of jewelry. No bitterness. No pain. No regrets. To our future, she toasted, raising her glass with her team. To new projects, to creativity, and to the freedom to be ourselves.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.